Thank you very much. Dear Minister, dear organizers, dear colleagues, dear ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure and an honor for me to be at the Novi Sad Fair and to share some thoughts with you about energy. But perhaps first let me take this opportunity to express my heartfelt sympathy to the government and the people of Serbia, and especially to the families and individuals who are affected by the current situation with the floods. And I hope, Mr. Minister, that I can count on you to convey this sympathy on our behalf in your government meeting. Dear ladies and gentlemen, I have a long speech here, so you better brace yourselves. But I'm happy to say that it's not only diplomatic niceties, but I tend to dive into the substance, so I hope you will bear with me. I'm sure you are aware that the Netherlands currently is holding the presidency of the Council of the European Union. And obviously I have to say a few words about the European dimension. Not too many, because after me the representative of the European delegation will speak, also a Dutchman by the way. So he will say much more about that. And I will also mention a few things about our national perspective. You are aware that the Netherlands is a relatively small country, roughly half the size of Serbia, densely populated, some 17 million people. And although we are lucky to have natural gas, for the rest our country is relatively poor on natural resources. Nevertheless, we are the 15th economy in the world. What does that mean to an economist? It means that we've been very successful in managing these scarce resources: land, water, materials, and energy. We had to master how to sustainably reuse and prolong circulation of those inputs in order to increase our industrial and resource efficiency. In other words, we have always been striving to decrease the inputs while increasing the outputs, to make more value with less resources. Every true economic success story is precisely about that. In my view, Serbia is facing similar challenges in all dimensions of sustainability, in particular in the field of energy. Being energy efficient means far more than just switching off the light when you leave the room. True and sustainable energy efficiency involves higher energy independence, more sustainable resources utilization, a lower resource intensity in industrial production, adequate financial support, and a high level of care for the environment which provides you the inputs. I intend to say something about all of these aspects. Improving efficiency is equally important all around the world, since we're all facing the same challenges: a rapid change of the climate, slowing down economies, and making societies and peoples vulnerable. Earlier this week I drove back from Kopaonik to Belgrade, and on the way back I saw how the Morava River had flooded farms, villages, households. Other places are heavily flooded, I already mentioned it, and this happens for the second time in the last 2 years, which serves to show how fast the climate is changing and how quick we have to be in our responses. Now, obviously, I'm not going to talk about water management. Although I am ambassador from the Netherlands, you can invite me to talk about water management at any moment. But let me go back to energy. Energy independency. I would say that higher energy independency is the crucial precondition for any long-run economic growth. Energy prices worldwide are volatile, exposed to not always predictable geopolitical factors, but they have the undisputed tendency of rising in the long term. So being overexposed and overdependent on externally controlled inputs, such as oil, gas, and even electricity, has various negative effects on the local economy, and it increases the risk of sudden market shocks. ultimately slowing down investment cycles and having a negative influence on larger private investment decisions. Fewer people are employed and financial markets will have the tendency of remaining shallow. Making your energy needs meet your energy production can be achieved either by making your needs lower through increasing energy efficiency, or by making your energy generation more diverse, strong, and sustainable. In my view, Serbia would benefit from both the diversification and from the improving the efficiency. Having said this, I would encourage the government to continue to build favorable policy frameworks for local investments, as well as to continue with useful grid and gas interconnections with the neighbors and with the European Union. A favorable investment climate also presupposes that the legal framework is predictable and solid, the procedures transparent and fair, the administration quick and responsive. I would like to commend the government and your ministry for adopting the legislation in line with the third energy package and for setting up a general framework for development of renewable and energy efficiency projects. Still, the implementation seems to be challenging for both private and public sector, and more efforts and dialogue are welcome for overcoming all bottlenecks. Sustainable management of resources. Smarter use and reuse of the existing resources is crucial. This is true for energy, but also for water and for other scarce materials used in construction and industry. When it comes to energy, the private sector also has to be encouraged to take steps to ensure their operations are more sustainable and efficient. Let me give you an example from the village Botoš, near Zrenjanin. In Botoš, we have provided the grant to support a local farmer to build a biomass cogeneration plant. Once a simple farmer working some 700 hectares, he will soon press the ignition button on his 0.6 megawatt facility and he will start producing electricity and heat. 2 harvests per year, providing quite a lot of biomass, often perceived mainly as waste and very simple fertilizer, will now be used to generate electricity. At the same time, this plant will produce significant amounts of heat, which will be further used for warehousing and greenhouse agriculture, as well as for heating the local school. On top of all that, the remaining byproducts, whatever is left after extracting gas out of the biomass, will be reused for agriculture as high-quality fertilizer. So instead of burning what's left after a harvest, you can use it for heating, electricity generation, and fertilizing. This is the efficiency and sustainability I'm talking about, and it's such a great opportunity for Serbia, whether we talk about biomass, geothermal, hydro, or wind energy. Coal is simply not enough, and we've seen how difficult it can be when the coal supply is cut, like during the 2014 and the catastrophic floods. Serbia has to think of transition from coal to other greener and more efficient energy sources. Environment. Being independent and efficient is impossible without care for your environment and awareness that resources could and should be reused. In fact, how scarce the resources are depends very much on how you use them. As I mentioned earlier, coal, for instance, leaves a huge environmental and CO2 footprint, way larger than wind, sun, geothermal, and other renewable-based technologies. Chapter 27 is a complex and important one, but its implementation will significantly improve the environmental outlook of Serbia. Both the European Union and the Netherlands are fully supporting Serbia in its efforts to provide for its people cleaner air, water, and soil that should result in better health and higher life standards for everybody. It's important that I phrase it like this because sometimes I feel that this human element is missing. The ultimate goal of the Serbian EU integration process is that the people of Serbia and their neighbors live better and safer on a common European economic security and political platform. Climate change. As concerns climate change and EU integration, I can say that significant progress in the legal framework harmonization with the acquis has been made in Serbia in recent years. EU policies on environment protection, management of chemical, noise protection are completely or almost completely transposed into the domestic Serbian legislation. However, the European Commission has pointed out in the last 2 progress reports on Serbia that significant additional efforts are needed to further align with EU policies in areas such as water, waste management, air quality, nature protection, and climate change. Similarly, we talk about the obligations of Serbia within the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, as well as the complexity and the cost of implementing these regulations. Harmonization with the acquis in the climate package has only just begun. Serbia does not yet have a comprehensive countrywide climate policy or strategy, although work on it has started. The country has not yet put forward a commitment for mitigation of greenhouse gas emissions by 2020, although certain activities necessary for the start of the implementation have been undertaken. It is promising that Serbia has set and submitted clear emission reduction targets within the Paris Climate Change Agreement, and that in 2014 the National Committee for Environment and Climate Change was established. I hope that the strengthening of the administrative capacity will follow up, and I know that we, as European Union, are investing lots of efforts and funds into this. On energy overall, the last progress report of the Commission on Serbia stated that Serbia is moderately prepared and that some steps forward were made in internal energy market. At the same time, we would like to see more alignment with the European acquis on renewables and a more competitive internal gas market. For long-run sustainability of your electric generation capacities, the price of electricity would probably have to be more cost-reflective as well. I can see that much is going on in legislative terms when it comes to renewables and energy efficiency, but the government would profit from additional encouragement of private investors by having policies implemented faster. Nice laws and bylaws are important, but they are not sufficient in times that require fast adaptation and efficient international cooperation. Finally, financial markets. Financial markets are important, and I'm happy to see that development organizations such as the EBRD, the EIB, KfW, IFC, and some local commercial banks are not reluctant in providing tailor-made financing for innovative projects in various sectors. I also believe that the ministry should take advantage of such a favorable financial network and do its best to speed up and simplify the procedures for project development so that Serbia can march faster towards its 27% renewables target by 2020. I'm aware that sometimes all these recommendations can sound dry and formal, but as I mentioned, this is not only about technical alignment and fulfilling international agreements. I sincerely believe it is important for the Serbian future capacities to deal with climate change and the challenges in the field of energy. Serbia needs to ensure energy resources stability in order to secure higher growth and prosperity. Security and diversity of supply is thus crucial. Lately, I became aware of the increased interest of companies from my country as well, and my embassy hopes to have 2 energy-related trade missions in 2016. This is a promising signal and a compliment for Serbian authorities, but still there is much room for improvements. At the moment, Serbia has a caretaker government, so for a month or 2 it's perhaps unreasonable to expect huge steps forward. But I'm looking with optimism towards the future, and I'm very happy to see that regardless the outcome of the elections, Serbia will keep getting closer to the EU and to the Netherlands, also in the field of energy. I thank you very much for your attention.